Anger is a normal human emotion that we all experience from time to time. However, when anger becomes chronic or is not managed effectively, it can negatively impact your mental and physical health, relationships, and everyday life. In this episode of the Anger Secrets podcast, I will discuss how unchecked anger can easily wreak havoc on your life. If you struggle with chronic or unchecked anger, this episode is essential listening. By understanding the dangers of uncontrolled anger, you can take steps to control it and create a calmer, happier, and more loving life. Hello and welcome to episode 34 of the Anger Secrets podcast. I'm Alistair Hughes, and over the last 30 years, I've taught over 10,000 men and women how to control their anger, master their emotions, and create calmer, happier, and more respectful relationships. In this podcast, I share practical strategies and real-life stories to help you control your anger, master your emotions, and create calmer, happier relationships. For free support on your anger management journey, including free training and the opportunity to book a free 20-minute anger assessment call with me, visit my website, angersecrets.com. I look forward to talking with you. Now, let's jump into how anger can destroy your life. As I have mentioned, anger is a normal human emotion that we all experience from time to time. However, when anger gets out of control, it will have devastating effects on your life. One of the saddest examples of this I have seen is a man I shall call Joe. Joe is an intelligent and successful businessman who runs a small construction company with his wife, Tracy. Joe was a naturally aggressive man who often lost his temper at work. When that happened, he would often shout or swear at his staff, even though he was aware of the inappropriate nature of his behavior. Tracy would try to defuse the situation each time this happened, often telling Joe he was out of line. However, the more Tracy tried to intervene, the angrier Joe would become. This would lead to more and more stress for Tracy, who not only had to manage Joe, but also tend to the well-being of the staff affected by Joe's outbursts. Amazingly, this situation continued for about 30 years, and despite Joe's outbursts, their business thrived. One day, however, this situation came to a head. As he often did, Joe lost his temper with one of his team members. This time, however, Joe's outburst happened in front of a security camera. Sick and tired of Joe's anger, Tracy retrieved the footage from the camera. 3 days later, when Tracy judged that Joe was calm enough to watch it, Tracy showed it to Joe. Joe told me that when he saw this footage, he was mortified. He could not believe how he acted or what he said on the security footage. Interestingly enough, this footage differed greatly from how Joe remembered the incident. But, as Joe said, cameras don't lie, and Joe was finally able to see what his staff and Tracy had been putting up with for all those years. Joe immediately sought help from me. "I want to control my anger," Joe told me. "I know how I am acting is way out of line. I don't want to keep being like this." To be honest, working with Joe was hard work. Joe was a very opinionated man with strong views about what was right and what was wrong. He would often debate these opinions with me, and often not listen when I told him that it did not matter who was right or wrong. It was up to him, especially being the boss of his workplace, to manage his anger. He needed to stay calm and deal with his team calmly and professionally. I still remember the first time Joe came to see me and said that he had had an anger-free week at work. He was extremely proud of himself, as was I. Soon Joe's anger-free week became an anger-free month, and soon this month turned into several months. This did not mean Joe never got angry or frustrated at work, but he had learned to pause and calm himself down before reacting. This allowed him to be more mindful of his anger and de-escalate it before he exploded. Joe's ability to control his anger was transformational for him, Tracy, and the staff at his business. His workplace became much calmer and more relaxed, and Tracy could focus on the business instead of managing Joe's anger. This, however, is not why I'm telling you this story. I am telling you the story because about 6 months after my last session with Joe, Joe came in to see me. It was late at night, and I was finishing a session with another client. Joe looked upset, and I guessed he had had another explosive episode of anger at work. However, this was not the case. Joe told me he'd been keeping up the anger management skills that I had taught him. In fact, he had gone the last 6 months pretty much anger-free. But what had happened, he told me, was that Tracy had recently been diagnosed with terminal cancer, and she had been given just a few months to live. Although Joe was devastated by this, he said he wanted to come in and thank me. The last 6 months have been the best 6 months of our marriage, he told me. By managing my anger, Tracy's life was transformed as well. She no longer had to worry about me losing my temper. As a result, we've been far happier in the last 6 months than at any other time in our marriage. I hate what is happening to her, but I am so grateful that I've had the last 6 months with her the way we have. This was the first and only time I had seen Joe cry. Joe is just one of the many people I've worked with who have been able to control their anger, master their emotions, and create calmer, happier, and more loving relationships. If you struggle with anger, know that change is possible. It is often easier and quicker to manage your anger than you may think. And the rewards of being able to control your anger are worth any struggle you may have. In conclusion, I encourage you to not let anger destroy your life. Change is possible, and help is closer than you may think. Okay, that's all for today's episode on how anger can destroy your life. If you found this episode helpful, please follow this podcast and head over to your favorite podcast app and leave a rating and review. This will help other people struggling with anger find and benefit from this show. Remember, for free support on your anger management journey, including free training and the opportunity to book a free 20-minute anger assessment call with me, visit my website, angersecrets.com. I look forward to helping you control your anger once and for all. And finally, remember, you can't control other people, but you can control yourself. I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.
The Anger Secrets podcast is for general informational purposes only, and does not constitute the practice of counseling, psychotherapy, or any other professional health service. No therapeutic relationship is implied or created by this podcast. If you have mental health concerns of any type, please seek out the help of a local mental health professional.